this trade, they're actively encouraging it and supporting it. A very important thing for many of us is to withdraw our obedience from an authority which is perpetrating the arms trade. When enough people withdraw their obedience, we can actually stop authority from working and stop these dreadful arms deals taking place.
Protecting. Oxford University killing animals. This is what they do. Join the march.
It's torture for the animals, and all the evidence shows that whatever is learned from working on animals cannot be extrapolated to humans.
Good morning. Is that the Deputy Prime Minister's residence? It's MSG Associates and no open cast. We want to... It was Michael. He's put the phone down on me. We got straight through to him.
Well, Michael Heseltine has allowed open cast planning applications to be put in everybody else's back lawn, so I don't see why we shouldn't be here showing him what he's done to other people. He's closed the deep pits and put thousands of men out of work, and all the ancillary industries, all the communities have been destroyed.
Within a week of taking office, Tony Blair has appointed David Simon, the former chair of BP, as his Minister for Competitiveness in Europe. He's unelected, and his appointment is in direct contradiction with Labour's manifesto pledges to tackle global climate change and uphold human rights.
We have to prove to the slave master that we are not like him. We are not like him.
Somewhere down the road, when all the nations come together and look at this and acknowledge and apologize to all the people that has hurt over the 500 years, then we can start to celebrate. But for now, maybe a little remembering.
Stolen from land in Canada. It belongs to a tribe of people called New Hawk people. It's being logged illegally on their land, and we've come here to take the wood from out of the yard and take it to the police station. So hopefully we can all go there now and sit there, and the police can actually conduct inquiries and find out, you know, ascertain that it is stolen, and therefore do something about it and stop them selling stolen timber in here.
What I want to do is let them know and bring a message that we want to stop to all industrial logging and clear cutting in our territory.
We smoke cannabis. We
we're doing nothing wrong, but law is wrong, and the law has got to change. And the way that's going to be done is raising public awareness about this issue, to free the weeds.
We are superheroes against genetics.
What does that stand for?
Shag.
Dun 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 dun.
Thank you.
You no idea what shit's in store. Goodbye, ancient mystery. The call of the wild is history. We'll weed out indigenous sperm with the aid of a smart designer germ. Select the hot shots that we need for a cleaner, leaner, meaner breed.
I think we need to look at the history of Monsanto to see what they have to contribute. They were the big producers of DDT in the United States, which turned out to be a mistake. Producers of Agent Orange, the defoliant used in Vietnam, which the Vietnamese people are still paying a price for in births of deformed babies and so on. Producers of BST additive in milk in America, which has caused so much controversy. And now they're producing a soybean, which they tell us is safe. And looking at their record, I'm not convinced.
Dear Leonard Blavatnik, we are sending you a copy of this video in your capacity as director and owner of the Deeside Aluminium Factory, which is making our lives such a misery. The noise and fumes referred to in this video affect a high proportion of residents living on our estate. Though the problems do not occur 24 hours a day, some of us are so badly affected we're near breaking point. We hope that you will agree that the current situation is not acceptable and that something needs to be done. Sadly, recent changes have not made any appreciable difference. We are not asking for the closure of the factory, only that those of us affected should have our quality of life restored. Being good neighbours should be in both our interests. Yours, residents of Pendremela, Wrexham, Wales.
Hello, I'm Mr. Stubbart. I'm a resident of Pendremela Estate. I've lived here since 1960, and it was very, very, very nice. It was lovely, it was quiet, as you can see the estate, and quite suddenly planning permission was given for a factory to go ahead, about 200 metres, less than that at the estate, a Deeside Aluminium, and it's been horrendous ever since. The noise, the smoke emission, it's unbelievable. Hopefully you'll be able to see and judge for yourself.
I just try not to open my windows, to be honest, much now. The children don't go out and play like they used to because you worry for their safety and what's coming out of the factory.
Which is actually happening today. You must excuse me for this bad filming, but I've had such a bloody mouthful, excuse the language, of that stuff, and that is the fitted language that goes with it. See it coming through the roofs, everywhere there is. There's plenty of witnesses around here now. There's plenty of local lads. I'll take them to court if I need be, with me.
But the smells, and it's worse in the summer when you try and open the windows to sleep, you've just got to close them straight away. And like I've even walked past the factory and you have to like hold your breath to walk past it because it's that vile.
Well, at times we see large amounts of black smoke and contamination.
Other times we get not much smoke, but some rather unpleasant smells coming out of there as well. And it does rather perturb us as to what actually is being discharged from the factory. And no one really seems to know.
It's Sunday night. I've just had a phone call of Mary Pierce next door. Everybody's absolutely choking with fumes. I don't know if you can see it, the whole place is like it's alight now. It's actually the dross. It's glowing. I can only take so long because the fumes are that bad. This is for the attention of HMIP, who still say there isn't enough evidence.
It's like an express train running under the window. It's really loud. And then if we close the bedroom windows to stop that noise, we get a high-pitched whining. And it absolutely drills your brain, it really does.
Well, the only way I can describe it is a continual bump, and a high-pitched whine as well, the two. And it vibrates in my pillow, something awful.
It's like a drone, like an underground noise, like a vibration, and a noise that's constantly there, and also crashing and banging.
It means you have sleepless nights. You can't have a good night's sleep every night, and it does mount upon you after a while. You do become extremely tired, and the effects that brings.
Those are in me ears, and that on top. And still I can hear it laying on the bed.
It's destroyed our family, what it's done to my parents. My mum took some sleeping tablets in, I think it was February, because she couldn't take no more.
Nobody knows how I've cried here. Nobody. Ask him.
Yeah. Right, shall we go down Dory's and see what the sound's like? We'll take the monitor with us and have a look, okay? Shut the door, I've got the key. Okay, ready?
Standing here, it's between 60 and 62.
Where are we? Where are we?
Outside Daisy's, Mrs. Yackis's doorway.
About how far from the factory?
What would you say?
200.
About 200 yards. Something like that, yeah.
Is this a normal day? Is this normal? 64
yes,
decibels?
Yes, yes.
It has been louder.
It has been louder.
This is
normal.
an average.
I built this house to what it is, with Shirley, my wife, son Stephen and Ken. We were forced to leave this property after 3 years of fighting, which Wrexham Mayor Borough Council admitted that it was a major mistake, repeating again. The fact from the noise, dust, vibrations, and all sorts of emissions, including dross, we were forced out of this property. No option. The property is now on the market and will not sell. We've lost everything. And because of that factory, Deeside Aluminium, that is the reason we've lost everything. I don't think you can say to anyone how you feel. You never sleep at night. You lose all your confidence. There aren't any words to say how you feel.
We stood out there for 20 minutes. No, it might have been longer than that.
No, it was good.
And the police come and asked us would we
We stopped the
move
traffic
after.
with placards in the middle of the road.
In the middle of the road, we stopped all the Arctic wagons, blocked both sides of the roads right through. And the police come and asked us to move.
Why do you do it?
To try and get some attention. Because of D-side aluminium. It's simple. We tried having meetings and everything, and nothing happened. So we went on our own back, didn't we?
So if the owner of the factory was here right now, what would you say to them?
Right. What exactly are you discharging?
Just put reasonable guidelines on.
We want it quieter, to certainly let us sleep at night, get it quieter at night.
Reduce completely the noise, listen to us. And I challenge you to come and live on this estate for a period of time. Shirley's house is empty. Yeah. I'm sure she wouldn't object to you living there.
We've been out of our home now for some 8 months because of the noise, the emissions out of that factory.
And the thing we'd like most in the world is to go back and live in our home in peace.
Now as you've seen the video and you realise, or you should realise, how bad it is, it's still going on, we're still suffering, there's been no improvement, and by sending this video to you, hopefully you'll be able to do something so it'll enable us to have a decent life, and more important than anything, a good night's sleep, which is a basic principle of life.
Now on BBC Wales on 1, the main news stories this Thursday lunchtime, presented by Amanda Sargent and BBC Wales Today.
Residents of the Wrexham estate have launched a transatlantic battle to end what they claim is noise and smoke pollution from a factory near their homes.
And in Wrexham today, a copy of the letter was delivered to the plant's local management.
We are sending you a copy of this video in your capacity as director and owner of the D-side aluminium factory, which is making our lives such a misery.
The company's made attempts recently to solve the problems, but so far today, no one has been available for comment.
Up to 300 new jobs.
There now follows a party political broadcast. Oh, sorry, a political party broadcast.
Were carrying flaming torches, and I could feel the anger and the rage and the temptation to throw the torch into the base and set alight to something.
And if people have got to go to the lengths of fucking trashing machinery and burning it, then that's what people do.
The only way to actually stop them is by actually going out there and sabotaging their systems so that they can't carry on.
They're destroying our atmosphere, they're destroying our children's future. So how can we be criminals?
What we're doing may be classified by them as criminal damage, but it's morally justified and morally defensible.
Suffragettes. They went round smashing windows of the ministers to get what they wanted, you know, and nobody in the later day rejected that as criminal.
Suffragettes were infuriated by the wait-and-see policy of Asquith, the Prime Minister. Militancy reached its peak of violence. No property was safe from their arson attacks.
At all times, Mrs. Pankhurst was adamant in her ruling that our militancy be against property only, at no time endangering human life.
Welsh Language Society saw how important broadcasting was really as an area of campaigning, because at that time television obviously was becoming more and more important as an influence in people's lives, and yet what we had in Wales was only, say, about 2 or 3 hours a week of Welsh language broadcasts, the rest being in English only. And not just being in English only, but not being about Wales and not being relevant to us and not saying anything about people's lives, in that people actually started to take to do criminal damage, really, to television studios and to climb television masts and get arrested, really, for smashing equipment. But what that actually then did was to inspire a far greater number of people to obviously do things on a lesser scale, but nonetheless to be part then of a wide-ranging campaign calling for a Welsh television channel.
Toxifying the planet is not recognised as criminal damage, then we're going to be faced with more and more of a gulf between what the people in power say is necessary and what is patently obvious to people is necessary, which is, the whole economic base is leading towards kind of social and kind of environmental degradation. In order to grow, we're either going to have to encourage a whole lot more people to take mass actions, or, we're going to have to slightly change tactics. The skirts had moved up and down, then they kind of moved back to near the sound system, and they kind of transformed their role and became cover for these alleged tree planters to plant trees, 2 trees taking out the path of the M11.
Well, the focus of my actions have been against Trident, the nuclear submarines, and started campaigning in 1979 and tried all the democratic ways first, or so-called democratic ways first, and they just didn't seem to be getting anywhere. And so then we started saying, right, civil disobedience, and that involved cutting the fence to get into the base. And personally, I struggled with that. I found the whole idea of damaging property a difficult one to overcome. I think there's a whole upbringing to do with respecting property, and I found that difficult to begin with. But once I'd done it, once I had actually cut the fence, there was a great delight in doing it. Just a wonderful feeling of elation that for once this was something that was being done on my terms, that I had power over the Ministry of Defence just for a moment.
Sometimes you do a fence cutting for symbolic reasons, but normally you cut a fence to get through to somewhere else so that you can do something else, like other forms of criminal damage.
So what sort of criminal damage actions have you done?
They've ranged from supergluing locks, cutting fences, to now mostly cutting coaxial cables that carry data from spy systems at Menwith Hill to the operation so that the National Security Agency can't listen in on telephone conversations and military communications.
A rally to mark the first anniversary of work on the Newbury bypass turned violent today when hundreds of demonstrators stormed the construction site. They set fire to mobile offices and equipment, leaving police outnumbered and powerless to stop them.
At the time, everyone saw it as shocking because it's flames and it looked very, very drastic. But if you were actually there and you saw the happiness of the people, the fact that people were asked to get out of the way, people were dancing, people were having a completely carnival atmosphere. That is what isn't seen on small shots, small sound bites that you see on the news.
That's sensible. Turn of the paint. Another coat of paint, was that?
People have got to go to the lengths of fucking trashing machinery and burning it. And that's what people do, and everybody that was there that day was happy, was like pleased to see it It was revenge for 9 miles of countryside destroyed forever.
When you see the state of the environment at Newbury, that damage is sort of glossed across. The fact that people burned down some man-made implements, you know, the fact is that is how frustrated people are getting. Why aren't people looking at the fact that the people's frustration and anger is drawn to that point?
When you're ripping down the fence, you're doing it to try to get to these dogs and to try to stop the torture that they're going to be going through when they go to the laboratory. And I think that's a positive thing. I don't think that fence has the right to exist. I don't think that they have the right to hold these dogs here. And I think it's our job and it's our duty to make sure that this doesn't go on, and direct action is the best way to ensure that it's not going to happen. It's one of the most effective tools that the animal rights movement has to use.
You've got to put yourself in our enemy's shoes and ask what they wouldn't want. Of course they don't want demonstrations, of course they don't want public education, but they also don't want us to damage their property, to trash their property. They don't want us to liberate their animals. So just put yourself in their shoes, and that's what the Animal Liberation Front have done. And we have been one big pain in the arse, to say the least, for animal abusers in this country.
I also pass my knowledge on to other people, so that if I go to prison for it, or I'm put out of action and I can't do it, other people have knowledge there to do it themselves if they want to. But I make sure they know all the risks and the fact that it does, you know, these things do cost thousands of pounds worth of damage, and that if they get caught, they could go to prison for it.
It's not about picking on individuals and threatening people. It's about changing systems, because the change is more radical than changing individuals. You know?
And it's the imagination and the ingenuity that's the most important thing, to keep doing things different, not to carry on doing the same things.
You know, there's the old Union saying, united we stand, divided we fall. You know, and if we start bickering and arguing amongst ourselves, then we're going to be disunited, and they're just going to crush us.
I think one of the things to beware of in a campaign is whether we're being driven by the media to do something more upfront, more dangerous, more eye-catching. And I think it has to be our decision to do these things, not the media's decision.
The drug was administered in a drink of water given at the start of each day's exercise. 25 minutes later, the first effects of the drug became apparent. The men began to relax and to giggle. But this man was more seriously affected and had to be removed from the exercise. After 35 minutes, one of the radio operators had become incapable of using his set. and the efficiency of the rocket launcher team was also very impaired. 10 minutes later, the attacking section had lost all sense of urgency. Notice the bunching and indecision as they enter a wood occupied by the enemy. Almost immediately, the section commander tried to use a map to find the location of troop headquarters, and a prisoner's escort had to have the way pointed out to him, although it was in plain sight, 700 yards away over open country. 50 minutes after taking the drug, radio communication had become difficult, if not impossible, but the men are still capable of sustained physical effort. However, constructive action was still attempted by those retaining a sense of responsibility in spite of physical symptoms. But 1 hour and 10 minutes after taking the drug, with one man climbing a tree to feed the birds, the troop commander gave up, admitting that he could no longer control himself or his men. He himself then relapsed into laughter.
Obsession, fascination, fetish, fragmentation. Why are 9 out of 10 women dissatisfied with some aspect of their own bodies? The beauty industry is the beast.
Do you spend more time watching nature programs than experiencing the real thing? More time laughing at TV jokes than joking around yourself? More time watching TV sex than making love yourself? Then there's something you're missing. Television isn't real, but the addiction is. A message from the Media Foundation.
The average North American consumes 5 times more than a Mexican, 10 times more than a Chinese person, and 30 times more than a person from India. We are the most voracious consumers in the world, a world that could die because of the way we North Americans live. Give it a rest. November 29th is Buy Nothing Day.
By the time this child graduates from high school, her brain will have absorbed 350,000 television commercials, 100,000 alcohol ads, and a daily barrage of sex and violence. If that doesn't turn you off, then nothing will. A message from the Media Foundation.
Anyway, we shouldn't forget why we're here tonight. Do you all know why you're here? We're here to raise some money to fight this campaign against chucking everyone out of Holtsfield. Do you all know that, do you? Yes, because this horrible, evil man called, what is he called? Tim Jones, isn't he? That's right. Well done, it's like the pantomime now, isn't it? Behind you, yeah, I know he is. I have to say, actually, I hate Tim Jones, because because I put a bid in for Holtsfield, right? I was going to build a car park on it. Not really, not really.
I first heard about Holtsfield through a friend of mine who used to be a bus driver, and I was his conductor. And that was in 1966. And he invited me back to his house. We walked up the valley, and then to see this wonderful little setting of this small field surrounded by wooden chalets was quite amazing.
I suppose Holtsfield is like my dream come true, really. I mean, it just embodies everything I believe in, you know. small little houses to house little families, nothing pretentious.
I was born in my house. I was born in my house as well. Lived all my life.
There's no roads, no traffic, no crime, just no strange people, just people that you know, and they know that they're safe, they feel safe.
These wooden chalets down there are all owned by the occupiers, but the land was bought up in late 1980s by a property developing company who intends to evict everybody, demolish the chalets and develop the area.
So we contacted our solicitor, who was recommended to us, and he took the view that many of us perhaps did have the right to remain here simply because we've been here for so long.
They suggested that they negotiate for protected tenancies of the land, and that offer was rejected. They suggested that they might like to purchase long leasehold interests. That offer was rejected. And they also suggested that they purchase the freehold from the company, and that offer was rejected as well. So all attempts at reasonable negotiation by the occupants fell on deaf ears.
It's almost like the law says I can evict you, so I will, because I can.
You ever want to accuse, his parents must...
When we started to get ourselves organised that we were going to fight Tim Jones and the Leapstone, we obviously had to have meetings of the people in the field to decide which way we were going to go and what we were going to do. But it has definitely made us all more aware of each other, who we are, what we are, why we want to stay here.
We've been fighting legal battles now for about 6 years, and we've lost most things. It seems like we're losing most things, and we're now expecting an eviction of the first residents very soon.
We can't live our normal lives at the moment. I haven't been out anywhere for a few days. I haven't gone shopping. I've had my children picked up from school because I'm afraid the bailiffs are coming. And I really don't know what's going to happen within the next month.
I think it's quite important that we acknowledge the unique way of life that the people of Holtsfield actually have. It is immoral to remove that community and their homes in order to put luxury dwellings. To say that a developer is far more important because he's got money behind him seems to me crass stupidity.
When they've demonstrated outside my office and when they've performed outside my house, they've used words like battle, fight, emotive, words which mean great and wonderful things. There was a dispute. I don't think genuinely that they had the collective wish to buy it. Now, if that's right, then will they stop throwing all this bullshit around? Because basically, I am getting tired of it.
We can't reach them. It's beyond our power to reach them. We've tried the mediation, we've tried writing, talking, offering to buy it, but no. I don't know what his agenda is, but I really don't understand him.
We all at Holtsfield believe what's going on is wrong. And I'm amazed that it's got so far as it has done.
We rigged up this system, this telephone tree, where somebody would ring a neighbour or a friend, and that friend would ring 2 other people and so on. So in a very, very short time, theoretically, there'd be hundreds of people would know what was happening.
And then it all got a bit unreal because you were talking about lock-on points and cement and bars and chains and the wire, the alarm bells that went from the treehouse along my garden wall there, and and then the dawn patrols. I mean, it was a real siege. You thought, we're not in Northern Ireland, we're not in Bosnia. Where are we? Is this like little corner of Swansea or the Gower?
With rings of reinforced steel welded onto one lamp or coming out of this gas bottle, placed in the ground, shuttering put round that, and then concrete poured around that. And like I said, the other important thing is use a chain that they can't cut and just clip on to the bar that's going through the middle of the gas bottle welded on.
We were actually keeping guard on the entrance to the field. There's a track that comes down the field, which is about 400 yards long. And we built a little shelter at the top of the lane, and each of us in turn would sit there, from dawn, literally from dawn till dusk. My tiny hands is frozen.
I differ from day to day. Sometimes I feel really sad, although for some reason I haven't been able to have a good cry.
And then other days I feel really angry that that he can get away with what he's doing.
In this day and age, you don't expect bailiffs to come smashing through your door, but that's exactly what happened.
They came when we were all getting ready for school, Sadie. They came down really early when we were all getting ready for school. Went straight to Raytime.
And before we knew it, there must have been about 30, well, probably more, security guards, you know, the bailiffs and police. But they didn't come down the lane, they actually came down the field and at the side, and we didn't see them.
It was so, like, planned, like, operation. It was like some bloody, you know, warfare, sort of the way it went, you know, sneaking down behind, cutting the alarms, you know. And, you know, just the subterfuge, you know, and the whole, as if we were some sort of enemy.
Well, of course, the vicar and I were locked on with bicycle locks attached to a rather large chain.
I simply went in to be with them and had myself chained to their chains.
And it's completely through the bailiffs. They just didn't know what to make of this. A vicar walking in saying, no, you can't stop me. Sat down and locked on.
The statement being made here by all my neighbours is that arms are locked on inside huge lumps of cement which are in the ground. Our hearts are locked on to this earth that we believe is our right to be here, you see. And then these bully boys are rough handling young kids, you know, a bit older than John. They're rough handling them, you know, and your men seem powerless to stop that. We need you to help us. We're desperate here.
We all at our arm's length, really tightly like this, locked together. And they couldn't get us apart. So they rolled the three of us across the kitchen floor and like booted the three of us out of the door. And we were still all locked on, so there was just this tangle of people being like pushed through the back door.
You just smashed through the windows and picked up plates and smashed the windows and pulled up the carpet and smashed up the floorboard, pulled down the stairs. Ripped the loads of things that they didn't need to do. Oh, God.
Where's the name?
Alan.
Yeah.
The police were here and there were people breaking things and throwing things down the stairs and breaking my mirror upstairs and smashing the furniture, just throwing it downstairs and sort of, well, practically throwing the children who were upstairs.
Right, pack it in! There's somebody getting hurt here, then your fault.
My son, Tom, had gone over to help. He was up in the loft and they dragged him down the loft, dragged him down the stairs and just like threw him out. And he was crying, and of course there was loads of people crying and screaming and shouting. But I myself just personally just felt like so proud of Tom. You know, he'd gone over there to help, you know, a friend and neighbour, you know, and I was just, yeah, good for you, Tom, you know.
Eventually, the police called the whole thing off because they realised that they simply couldn't remove Diane and Dee, although they had managed to get everyone else out. These two ladies were positively locked on and could not be removed as easily.
Crazy. But basically they didn't succeed in securing the bungalow.
It's quite unbearable thinking that might all come round again, you know.
from recent company searches, it's shown that the indebtedness of the company to the bank is now probably in the order of some £700,000.
Loads and loads of people have written to Barclays asking, why are you lending money to this company called the Leadstone? Or we're trying to make 26 families homeless.
Well, basically, the fact that Barclays Bank have continued to offer financial backing and support to Tim Jones. Presumably when they loaned him the money was because they thought they'd get it back one day when he developed Holtsfield, but he's never going to develop, he's never going to build on it. So we're asking Barclays to call in his loan, basically.
So the case has gone to the House of Lords at the moment. We were considered to be like the strongest case, because we've been here for, since 1971. We'd had an agreement with the previous landowner, Mr. Holt, so we were considered to be very strong. So if we won our case, it would ultimately stand to reason that the other people would win their cases as well.
Then building up towards the court case, because it meant so much and it meant the bailiffs could be coming back in for everybody, we didn't know what would be happening. We decided we'd walk to the House of Lords to present the papers and to raise support.
Fortunately for us, the House of Lords case was won by us, which means that there's probably at most half the people that live here who are now safe and that they've got security of tenure.
The House of Lords have decided that because you can't distinguish between the wooden structure and the land upon which it rests, that they all merge into one. And the letting of the land was in effect a letting of the land together with the dwelling.
Well, they haven't written themselves off, but what they've done is written off any ownership rights which they purported to have to the chalets. And it's not just the ownership rights to the chalets, it takes it further than that, because you get into the refinement of their own argument that the chalets belong, all of them now, as I read the House of Lords judgment, to Leadstone. All of them, without question.
Sorry, he doesn't seem to realise this. It's what we wanted. It's what we wanted all along. It's what we first, in 1989, we said, we either want to buy it, rent it or lease it. And this is what we've got.
Well, it was all really fascinating. I don't think we understood it all, but I think what really made a difference was them seeing the photographs, because what happened at the High Court, in the Court of Appeal, Jude, wasn't it? Yeah. Is they never actually saw what they were making a judgment about.
That will effectively put an end to any prospect for development of the land which this company may have ever had.
Like, true hope for me may in the future just be left alone to just live our way.
I think the law has got to be looked into and changed if ordinary people like us have to go through this.
So maybe it's not necessarily the landowner is the problem, but perhaps the system itself. I keep telling people we haven't won yet. It's another campaign, that we've won. Another battle that we've won, maybe, the whole damn war is still going on, and, the enemy isn't going to surrender,
Do you know anything about the effects of air travel on global warming?
I don't know.
And have you ever thought about the effects of air travel on the ozone layer?
Not really, no. Never given it a thought.
Well, there's not really much you can do about it. I mean, if you've got to travel, you've got to travel, haven't you?
would you like, you know, a countryside where you can play a little bit, climb some trees, have some fresh air to breathe? Maybe.
We're protesting against the second runway because, you know, everyone knows the issues about road transport. We're trying to do the same for air transport, you know, that it's unsustainable. We can't keep going on expanding the aviation industry just to suit the whims of modern society.
I found myself appearing in magistrates' courts quite a lot, quite regularly, and I thought it would lighten proceedings quite a lot if I had a long and difficult name which not only I could say in court, but they would be obliged to repeat back to me as well. So I changed my name to Oddsocks McWeirdo El Tutti Frutti Farto Hello Hippopotamus Bum. Now, 6 months later, I decided that maybe wasn't quite dignified enough, so I changed it again to Oddsocks McWeirdo El Tutti Frutti Mr. Farto Hello Hippopotamus Bum. I think we can all live in cooperation as free individuals without hurting our fellow sentient beings, but we'll have to work on it. The world is for sharing. And to this day, that is my full legal surname.
A few hundred of us were there, and we were just protesting outside, but all of a sudden the police were spraying CS gas just as if it was a hairspray.
Get back!
And they were spraying it indiscriminately at all sorts. Children were affected, old people, there were people who couldn't see for ages afterwards. It was really a dreadful scene.
Right, don't touch your eyes.
I saw Sylvia being pulled away by two policemen on her back. She was being sprayed in the face by a policeman who was in front of her. He then pulled her in and carried on spraying her when he was putting her in the van, straight in the eyes, about a foot away.
As soon as you have to open it, I found it worse when I shut my eyes.
Don't put anything on your foot. I got my foot caught under the gate.
Right. But you weren't attacking a police officer or showing any violence towards them. Don't try to keep your eyes open. I know it's hard. Relax. What were you doing? Why did they do that?
I was trying to keep the gate open and he just came right in front of me.
So you weren't attacking the police. You weren't attacking the police officer or anything like that. You were trying to keep the gate open.
I was just trying to keep the gate open.
Right. I know.
When CS was first synthesized in the late 1920s, it was noticed that it would react with a substance called sodium metabisulfite. Now, sodium metabisulfite is a material to which the public has ready access. It is used to purify winemaking apparatus and to kill acetic acid bacteria. It is sold in the formulation of Camden tablets. Now, in solution, it will react quite rapidly with CS, and the effect in neutralizing pain is very, very quick indeed.
Despite the 1994 Criminal Justice Act, squatting is not a crime in England and Wales. Squatting is still legal.
So why don't you turn off your television set and go and do something less boring instead?
Tonight
we're going to squat an empty
school.
school.
There's an old school that is empty.
Basically go there and, you know, check out, get over the wall, go in, see if we can get in for
Find
a
which bit's
place that's open, go in, have a look around, change the locks, and then just sit waiting, going for a while, and then gradually, you know.
We find out who owns it, or they come to us, and then the negotiations begin.
Until you have control over who comes in and out of the building, you do not have possession and can be evicted straight away if the owners or the police come round.
I'm about to change the lock on my front door, which is here.
You do have legal rights as a squatter, and these are laid out in Section 6 of the Criminal Law Act 1977.
Show that to the police, they basically, and say it's a civil matter, not a criminal matter. You know, we found the base open, which caused no damage, then basically they should, you know, hopefully head off and, you know, it's into the courts realm.
If you believed everything you read in the papers, you'd think the squatters set out to trash empty buildings. But truth is stranger than fiction.
But I mean, look at the state of it really, these chunks of, you know, roofs that have fallen down. It's a neglected building, you know. This is an amazing space that could be used. Why has it been neglected for want of a few people around, you know, looking after it? But basically it's just been left to run, and the room down below is just leaking water through the roof. We're going to try and sort that out for the next few days, get some friends who can with plumbing to come down, see if we can seal it off, and, you know, hopefully we can repair this room and the room below and make it safe again.
Stealing electricity is an arrestable offence, so don't get caught in the dark.
Quite often it's quite easy to get the electrics on.
A lot of the time the switches have just been turned off, which is what we found here. We flicked a few switches and boom. I just add that people who don't know anything about electric should not go into an empty building and start playing around with fuses and switches and
remember
stuff,
kids, don't do this at home, but it helps if you've got home.
What we're doing at the moment is turning on the water on the property. There's taps inside the property, so we can turn it on and off. If it was outside in the street, legally it's a bit more dodgy as to whether you can do that or not. This is the result. We have water, lots of it.
Squatting is not illegal, it's unlawful. This means that it's a civil dispute between the squatters and the owners over possession of the building. You are not personally on trial.
I've never been to court before. I've never been to any court before, ever, not even to watch. Our spokesperson, Phoenix, is dealing with preparing the defence. We're just going to be there as people to represent ourselves and to show the judge who it is he's about to evict, if he does evict us.
It's always worth going to court because more often than not the case is adjourned and you get to keep your building for longer.
19th of May. Yeah, it's brilliant. 19th of May, that's ages in Scottish terms. It's brilliant. So we're really, really happy. It's brilliant.
There are 864,000 empty properties in Britain. If you would like further information on any of the issues raised in this programme, copies of the Squatter's Handbook are available for just £1. Contact the Advisory Service for Squatters on 0171 359 8814. That's 0171 359 8814.
Police Sergeant 3967 Hocking, and we're in interview room number 1 at Windsor Police Station. Time now is 14:44 on Wednesday the 26th of February 1997. What's your full name?
No comment.
Okay. What's your date of birth?
No comment.
Okay. Also present in the room is?
PC 4152 Conroy from Maidenhead Police Station.
You don't have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention when questioned something which you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence. Is there anything that you would like to say in relation to what you've seen on that video that could give you a lawful reason for being there, or a lawful excuse to take part in what's actually gone on there?
Good evening, I'm Alan Partridge. I'm Alan Partridge. This is Sports Desk. I'm Alan Partridge. I'm just saying my name again, Alan Partridge. It's not that I like the sound of my own voice, I just enjoy hearing myself speak. I'm Alan Partridge. I'm the man who makes Jimmy Hill look like Umberto Eco. Alan Partridge. I'm a media whore without any punters. Let me on the telly. Let me on the telly. I'm Alan Partridge. I'm the unthinking man's Elton Wellesby. I'm Alan Partridge. Alan Partridge. Alan Partridge. Alan Partridge.
Are you suffering from any mental problems at the moment?
No comment.
Are you on any sort of medication?
No comment.
Are you in the care of a doctor for any sort of psychiatric?
That's
the word. Thank you.
No comment.
Is there any hospital that should be made aware of your presence here?
No comment.
It's actually quite amusing. For the tape, it's two police officers laughing. Right, I think it's fair to say that you're not going to answer anything else we've just discussed. Do you wish to clarify or add anything to what we've said?
No comment.
Multinational corporations dancing on the ruins. Multinational corporations dancing on the ruins of multinational corporations. Ha, 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 ha. Say goodbye to plastic and goodbye to cars. No more convenience stores. Hello to stars. No more Wall Street and no more Pentagon. Thinking about these things makes me happy. We're dancing on the ruins of multinational corporations. Dancing on the ruins of multinational corporations. Dancing on the ruins of multinational corporations. Ha, 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 ha.
that you've seen Undercurrents and you want to get active, this is for you. The Video Activist Handbook. Just pop a cheque in the mail for £12 and send it to the following address at Undercurrents. It'll be on your doorstep before you know it.